Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been talking. I'm like so worried. Like, oh my gosh, my mic's not working.
I thought I said you're muted, but
Jacqueline said hi. She's waving.
oh, is that what that is? Hi,
Yeah, she's waving at us. Hi, Jackie.
yeah, and if it says that you're sharing my screen, that's because we're sharing it to all the attendees and the panelists. You're on mute again.
No, Violet was calling me. She was wondering why she couldn't talk, and I said because no one can talk. So.
Well, we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started here.
I just let everyone know that everyone's on mute, and if they want to say anything, they can use the chat.
Thank you.
So. Whenever you're ready, let's go, Mike.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. I know we have a lot of really good information to share with you, and we've allotted a bit of time to give that information to you, and hopefully everyone can get a lot of takeaway from it. Before getting started, we'd like to ask everyone who's attending to use the chat box and maybe put their first name and where they're tuning in from. And you should be able to run your cursor along the bottom of your screen if you're using a computer and find the chat box. And if you're using a phone, you should just be able to tap on the screen and find it there.
Looks like we have Jackie from Chandler. We have Violet from South Phoenix. We have Kat from Flagstaff. Cindy from Wedmont, Washington. Wow. Hi, Cindy. We have Joanne from Fountain Hills. Terry from Phoenix from Family Involvement Center. Mark from Flagstaff. So we have some good representation all across the state. That's awesome.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, moving forward, so during the presentation, if anybody has any questions, we encourage you to put the questions in the chat. And during the webinar, we'll try to get to those questions. And then if we have time towards the end, we'll take a few minutes to answer any questions that we weren't able to get. So I am super honored to introduce our guest speakers tonight. We're really glad to have all of them here. We'll just give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves and what their role is. And yeah, we'll start with Dr. Diana Medina.
Oh, hi everyone. It's an honor to be here. I am a licensed psychologist in the state of Arizona, and I am also the Chief of Clinical Education for Copa Health. So I've been in the field for every time I say it, I cringe. Like probably about 15 years. I used to say 10, and then I realized I have to bump it up. So for about 15 years, I've worked and have had the privilege of working in various settings, from the school, working with children, and also working with families, all the way to working with veterans, and then community mental health. That's the majority of my work.
Nice. Thank you, Dr. Medina. Thank you for being here.
Sure thing.
Camilla.
Hi, I'm Camilla Parker. I currently work for Copa Health. I run the peer and family support services. I'm the program manager, and then I also am the president of the Mental Health Awareness Coalition. Um, I consider myself to be a peer and a family member. I've been in and out of the field, working as well as receiving services for children and myself for the last 15 years. Been a foster parent for about 8 years and have 3 adopted children through the foster care system.
Nice. Thank you for being here, Kim. And Dawn.
Hi, my name is Dawn Dibbern. I am the parent of 4 amazing special needs people who we have been navigating systems with for over 20 years. My passion is to walk alongside parents and really help them gain the knowledge that they need to help their children find the success that we know that they can with the right supports and services. And I am currently with the Family Involvement Center.
Nice. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for being here. And I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Michael Beltran. I work with the in-home supports department here at Copa Health, and I'm a family support specialist. Started off as a peer support and recovery coach, and working directly with the members, and now I work directly with the members' families. So definitely thankful to be here, and thank all of you again for being able to take this time to be here tonight.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
So getting right into it, we wanted to highlight a few different key areas regarding the season that we're in and the year that we're in, and how this year has brought on its own challenges and its own. It's been very diverse in what it's brought us, but it's also brought us a lot of opportunities to learn how to cope with different things and manage whatever's thrown at us. So a few statistics. We already know that 320 plus million people worldwide are suffering from depression as it is. We know that during the holidays, there's an increased level of stress and anxiety. And this particular year has brought on, again, its own challenges. Based off some studies, you see a little graph here on your screen. This is just one of the many different studies that they've done to measure the increased levels of stress, anxiety, and depression during this time of year due to COVID-19. And again, we already know that the holidays are a difficult time. A couple points here that it mentions is because there's triggers like increased stress, navigating family dynamics, burnout due to a packed schedule of holiday activities and commitments. And as far as those triggers go, we really can't escape it. The way that our social structure is set up, it's all around us. It's on commercials, it's on it's out with decorations. There's the Christmas music that starts playing a couple months ahead of time. I mean, we're hearing about a lot of different, it's all around us that it is this season, right? So with that, we wanted to kind of focus on, we wanted to examine more of that, more of what the holiday blues looks like, more of what these times look like, and again, opportunities where we can come together and learn how to get through these times. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Medina, who's going to open with holiday blues and what is that all about?
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. So, probably most of us have heard about the holiday blues, and it's just that sort of increase in depression symptoms that we may feel around the holidays. Okay. Now, it may be because increased loneliness or sadness around the holidays. For some people, it actually triggers sad memories or memories of the way things used to be and they no longer are. Um, for not so much in Phoenix, in particular, because we are blessed with lots and lots of sunshine. But in many states, what we find is that it tends to be a time of the year that's pretty gray. We don't see the sky a whole lot, and that grayness and that lack of sunshine also can definitely have a negative impact on our mood and our depression and the symptoms. So, folks may experience brief or prolonged periods of depression. If someone cycles, it may be a time that they know that it's going to be sort of that low for them. How long it may last, it depends. But to be very honest, with the way this year has been and with all the restrictions that we have and all the laws that we have experienced, because the reality is that even if we've been able to keep our jobs and those big things are still in place for us, we have all experienced loss because of COVID and what that has brought to us. So I would venture to guess that the period, if someone is sort of suffering from those holidays blues, is going to be prolonged at this particular year. Folks may use unhealthy coping skills to get through the holiday. A very common one is using alcohol to get through the sad sort of times, or even isolating more. And what I tell, whether it's my patients or the folks that I train at Copa, is, isolation feeds depression. And something that I think has made this pandemic quite difficult is the isolation that we may be living through, right? Because it has called for social distancing, and very sadly, it has mean increased isolation for many of us, and myself included in that. And the other thing, is that we may not be in a good sort of mode or the right attitude or the right frame of mind to be around others. So it becomes that catch-22. We don't feel good, so we don't want to be around others. But the reality is, the more we isolate, then the worse, our symptoms are going to get, because of that sort of isolation feeds depression, right? So next slide, Michael. So what can we do about it? What are some things that families can do to help, whether it's ourselves or loved ones, sort of manage that depression or anxiety around the holidays? I didn't mention anxiety in my previous slide, but something worth noting is that 50% of people that experience depression also experience anxiety, and a lot of it. And again, this year, because of the pandemic, that has been definitely magnified. We are seeing a lot more anxiety, whether it is, again, because of the not seeing the people that we love and care about, or financial strain that has impacted, again, many of us during these times, or having to deal with increased stressors, like trying to educate our kids while also doing a work from home, right? And then also having more people in the home, everybody under the same roof, you know, if you're a family and you have children, and it's just a significant significantly higher amount of stress. So what can we do to manage that depression and anxiety? So something that I recommend is, in particular in these times, I think we can get saturated from hearing about the pandemic and all the negative sort of news that come attached to it, right? Sometimes somebody will throw in a positive one, but the reality is it tends to be a pretty bleak sort of picture that is being conveyed to us, which is what's happening, right? So taking breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news. You know, do you want to know what's happening? Absolutely. So you stay well informed, but limit that. Is it 30 minutes at the end of, you know, in the afternoon or midday? I typically encourage folks to do it not right before bed, or maybe not right after, you know, they wake up. But what I will say is, do you need to be informed? Absolutely. Do you need to be watching and following that, you know, 24/7 every time you pick up a phone or every time you log into a computer? No, you don't. And, you know, having a little bit of control over that, and saying, no, I already read my stories for today. I know where we're at. You know, reach out to one another. And I know that sometimes we are doing so many things, maybe on the computer or with technology, but definitely I would encourage everyone to, you know, just reach out, check in on those folks that are important to you, whether they're friends, you know, family, whoever that may be. We have FaceTime, of course, we have, you know, Zoom, and it's not the same as in-person contact, but it is something, and it can be quite rewarding. Spending time outdoors and in nature. I think that, you know, this is very powerful, and we have ways of doing it safely, right? If we, you know, maintain our distance with others, we wear our masks, but being outside has an incredible effect in our mood and in how we sort of view the day. So I encourage folks, I don't care if it's you go walk the dog for 20 minutes, or maybe you go for a hike at a trail that, you know, maybe it's not too crowded at a particular time of the day. That's the beauty of Arizona at this time, right? If you're in the valley, you will absolutely enjoy, you know, the daytime is a beautiful time. So you can pick, maybe after lunch, go for a walk, or, you know, making it a point to spend time outdoors. Try to schedule your day. You know, a lot of what's happening, it's outside of our control. We cannot control, you know, when the numbers are going to go down. We cannot control what businesses may or may not do, who's going to close, who's going to stay open. There is a lot of control that we have lost in this time, and that's part of the loss I was referring to earlier. So focus on those things you can control. Can you set up your routine? Can you set up your alarm when you wake up? Can you set up your exercise routine, or however you decide to be active, what you're going to cook during the day, what activities you can put there, you know, in the schedule, especially if you have kids. So this is a way for you to gain control back in your day. And then I always like to focus on gratitude. You know, think about and give it some time in your day to reflect on what's going well, right? Because we can name probably quite a few things that are not going right in our life, but I do encourage you to think about all the things that are going well. If you're in good health, if your family is in good health, if, you know, maybe you have been blessed with not knowing someone who has passed from COVID. If you have, you know, it can be very simple and foundational things. You know, you have a roof over your head. It can be anything like that. But I think it's important that we set time aside to reflect on those. So what are some of the symptoms that families can recognize as part of, wait a minute, I think I'm not doing very well? I think that, you know, if we start to feel increased sadness, If we start to lose interest in those activities that we used to enjoy, those are big ones, big red flags, right? If family members are isolating even more than what is expected at this time, you reach out to them, they don't reach back, that's something to watch out for those around us, and to make sure that they are doing well. Disturbance of sleep is also a big one. If you are having trouble sleeping, if you're waking up during the night, if you are having trouble falling asleep or waking up too early, that is a big red flag that something is just off. And also, it's not here, but I will add that eating, and whether it's overeating, and trying to identify those times that we're eating, it's what it's called emotional eating, or I'm eating because I'm bored, not because I'm hungry, or lack of, right? Oh, all of a sudden, not much interest in food and losing weight. Those, either end of the spectrum would be something that to pay attention to, and to kind of, have that red flag come up. For children, I would say, if you have a child that's already potty trained and they revert back to wetting the bed, that's, a symbol that they are experiencing some stress. Children hitting, also being very frustrated, or having temper tantrums that are happening more frequently. Those are definitely things to look up for. The other one I'm going to say, I don't have it listed here, is definitely not wanting to engage in the learning environment, even if it's through the computer. By and large, children do tend to enjoy going to school. They see their friends, they play, even if they don't like math or writing, they enjoy other aspects of it. And I know that while they're not physically there, I think losing interest in school, or losing interest in activities that they clearly enjoyed before. And then also some of the items that I mentioned earlier. So how can families support their loved ones during this time? I talked a little bit about this, but I would say definitely reach out to one another. You know what? Hold on. This is starting to get pretty dark in here. Let me see if I can bring some light. Okay, here we go. There's a light. Reach out, plan activities, make it a point to, do something outdoors in a safe manner, right? We don't want to put anyone in danger, but it's also important to have that connection. I've seen, and probably everyone has seen it, right? Folks driving by one another, some grandma and grandpa's house, and waving from the car. Even those little things have a huge effect and can be beneficial, not only for the children, but also for the elderly that has really suffered quite a bit during this pandemic. I would definitely sort of mention those points. And let's see, let me move you so I can see it. What impact will COVID had on the normal holidays this year? Well, again, I unfortunately, in a sense, it makes it harder. It's a time that we tend to really enjoy and cherish spending time with those we love, whether it's family or friends, or parties or shows. And for us in particular here in Phoenix, right, this is a prime time for festivals. And around my house there was a festival of lights. Well, this year it didn't take place. There are activities that we can do from the car, absolutely. Like I go with my little guy to see Christmas lights several times a week, not every day, but several times a week. And it's something that he enjoys, I enjoy. And but it's actually impacting the holidays quite a bit. So not only from the social contact, perspective, but I think again, because we're seeing just this has been going on for a long time, and I think all of us are feeling very tired, right? And very just exhausted of having to change our routine and the way that we have had to change it. I don't think there's a single person that hasn't changed their routine and that they have to. So even how we go to the doctor has changed. They tried to see us via telehealth before we could go in person. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It could be a pretty cool thing. But again, it's, everything is limited. And I think that's what is difficult about it. And it's not our choice. That's the hardest part. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Okay, and I'll just touch very briefly on, finances are hard and are difficult. And these are just some very general sort of tips if it's something that you are struggling with, but try to stick with to a budget, whatever that budget may be. I think that's a rule for all of us, right? If we don't want to be in trouble later, I think we stick to a budget. And if the budget doesn't allow for gifts because there are priorities, that is okay. And I think it's important to normalize that. Holidays to me are not about giving physical things, even though society has kind of turned it that way. But we can make something for somebody that doesn't cost us a lot of really much money at all. We can have pictures of the kids and just decorate them really pretty and put a ribbon and say, this is a Christmas ornament. Then again, pretty inexpensive. It's a very cute gift. And it's something that whoever you give it to will save it, I guarantee it, and use it for years to come. Again, don't feel like you have to buy anyone anything. I think sort of setting those priorities of, what is important, right? A place to live is important. Putting food on the table is important. Being healthy is important. Being together is important. So those are the things I would say. The last one listed there is regifting items you have not used. I have seen this done, and I've done it in the past, in particular with books is an idea that I will throw out there. I've, in the past had parties where it was, you have to bring something, but it couldn't be something new that was actually a rule. And one time, it was like a book. So that's a big one. I'm aging myself, but I've done it with CDs and music, but the young folks won't know about that. So it can be done with many things. It can be done with a picture frame. And again, you can put a picture of something you cherish. Kids are fabulous for that because everyone wants pictures of the kids. But, I think the ultimate message is don't feel you have to stretch yourself to meet one more, to check one more item on the list. You don't feel ever like you have to buy things. So, Michael, did you need me to talk about this one, or is this?
No, I could take this one, but you touched on so many great points, and I really, really appreciate that. Even throwing in right at the end, the regifting a book, I think that's a pretty interesting idea. I never thought of that. I'm all for if somebody gives me a gift that they're regifting to me, personally. I'm like, someone's gonna appreciate it. I'll do it.
Think about it. They take up space. And how many times do we really read a book twice?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point. I actually do that to my friends.
I love it.
Some of my favorite books that I've read, I'll write like a really cool message on the inside of the book of like why I like this book, why I think it's for them, and it's a book I've read. And and I give it as gift because I mean it's something that you spent hours and hours reading, and now you're going to share with somebody else. So it's a nice gift if you make it that way. So I like that. That's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of really good points that you brought out, Dr. Medina, and especially with like the symptoms and what to look for. Sometimes we get so lost in the mix of our daily routine that we might not recognize that maybe we're getting up earlier, but we're going to bed later. And so like we're getting less sleep, or maybe we didn't realize that, oh, hey, have I ate this morning? And, you know, we stop ourselves throughout the day, but then we got to get right back to it. And so there's a lot of different things that along the way, if we're not recognizing, can later lead to some serious difficulties.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, I think that it puts a huge strain on parents of young children that you have to oversee, what they're doing, help them out. I would say probably the high schoolers are a little bit more independent, right? They can do it. I'm not saying, they don't need to be motivated, but I think families with young children have really paid a steep price with all the restrictions and the schools going virtual and who can watch the kids. And traditionally we had, grandparents could help. But what was the first thing that was done in this, sort of pandemic? It was, if you're a certain age, 60 and up, you have to isolate. You cannot, because it's particularly dangerous for that age group. So then you had, families that were left without that sort of support from grandparents. So I do feel for, families that have school-age children, that has been very, very, very difficult. And I think it's important to recognize it.
Definitely.
It has not been easy.
Definitely. And, when we talk about families and how we can really stay supportive and stay connected, because more people are having to isolate for various reasons, sometimes underlying health conditions. If somebody's maybe in a different age bracket as well, there's going to be a lot of different things that play into that. We know that you mentioned it during part of your slide that reaching out through phone, through computer, through teleconference. So we have a few here. They're listed through Zoom, Skype, Google Duo, FaceTime, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. And in the chat, I'm going to put see if it goes through. There are tutorials to run all of those where you can learn fairly quickly how to download, start using, and even teach someone else how to use. And so we really have a lot of different ways that we can still connect with our loved ones. So we wanted to take a poll from the audience. And let's see. Our question is, has COVID-19 negatively affected your view of the holidays this year? And what you can do to find that is if you scroll at the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, whether on the phone or on the computer, you should be able to find a poll button there if you don't see it.
It popped up for us.
So on its own?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So we see kind of, it's very close between, has COVID-19 negatively affected your view of the holidays? Some are saying no, like I'm not going to let anything, ruin these holidays, right? Whereas others, going into it, we go into it with these expectations, right, of how the holidays are going to be, and this season's going to be, and it's just our expectations aren't met because of what's happened this year. So thank you everybody for participating in that.
Dr. Medina, I'm just wondering if I had a parent who just texted me and was wondering, how can you tell the difference between the isolation from COVID and isolation from depression?
Right. So I would probably look into is the child or person looking to isolate even more. Like for example, right, kids have school. And again, probably the majority would choose to see their friends, even if it's through the computer and see the teacher. And um, is the child looking like not even wanting to do that? Are they not even wanting to engage? If the child has a sibling, are they not even wanting to go and play in the backyard? So things that normally that child would be interested in that are safe to do now, they're not even wanting to do. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Um, so in regards to, how the holidays have affected, it's affected each of us differently, but we want to ask Camila, how has it affected you and your family differently this year?
Um, well, a lot. I think good and bad. I think more good though. Um, One of the things, I'm stuck in the house with my kids and my husband. We're all working from home, and my kids are going to school. um, I think that I learned, I've learned so much about my children that I haven't, like, time goes and it flies and you're working and you're doing all these things. And this last year has allowed me just like some time to just kind of stop and just pay attention to things a little bit more. My son was struggling with some things. He ended up having to go into therapy and stuff like that. So been doing a lot of telehealth stuff, but I've just noticed things that I hadn't ever noticed before. And so it prompted me to request a neuropsych eval, which has led us down this autism spectrum, which I didn't notice a lot of things. Like I noticed that he was, some unique sensory stuff was happening and things that he was saying in school and how he's reacting to stuff on the computer and just different unique things that no one had brought up in school. I hadn't really noticed before. We thought it was ADHD related. And so to me, I think that that is valuable for my son, that we're able to find some of this stuff earlier on. But like I said, it's just things that I, hadn't noticed before. It's also, I think, allowed, us to spend more family time together. We've played board games more than we have in the past. Just like little things that we could just really just stop and just take a breath and realize what's most important. And so that's kind of where I think that it's changed this year.
In regards to staying safe, what are some ways that we can do so?
So here, in regards to staying safe, limiting our contact with family and friends. One of the things, the unique dynamic that we have, and maybe some of you do as well that have attended, is that I have an adult son that also struggles with behavioral health challenges. And so we've had a couple COVID scares because his lifestyle isn't safe. And we've had to set boundaries that we probably wouldn't have to set in the past, which I feel a little bit bad about, but we have to stay safe, and he understands. And what we've done is had open, frank conversations about, with family and friends and with my son as well. Like, look, this is, the rules, this is my expectation. And he gets it. He understands, which is good. I think that, we've avoided a lot of those large social gatherings, even, with being invited. I've had family that for whatever reason, they still feel like it's, they want to get together. Well, I don't. So, and so I think sometimes, and I don't know if anybody else has felt this way, but I do get a little bit of a peer pressure from people like, well, come on, it's just a restaurant, or come on, it's just this, or, I'm like, and so, I.
Oh, looks like she may have froze.
Sharing that expectation, I think, with the people around you, it also maybe makes them think a little bit as well, like, oh, maybe I should, maybe I should think about things, so, and then also wearing the mask, these are all things that I educate my oldest son on as well, making sure that we're wearing masks. We're all wearing masks in public. We're wearing masks at work. If we go into the office, and what that does, is it just eliminates, the possibility of exposure. So if, if I'm staying safe, then, and then, if you do have symptoms, you want to definitely get tested as quickly as possible. I know that on the Arizona Health and Human Services website, they have a list of, a huge list of free COVID testing. So if you have symptoms, get tested right away. So then you limit exposure to other people and then them having to, do that. So I know it's a unique dynamic with, like I said, a son that has those behavioral health challenges. His ideas of safety are completely different than mine. And so, we've had to basically coerce him into getting tested multiple times before he can come over. But, he does. He finally decides to do it. And then, so I think that's important. Just, educating your family members, if you have adult loved ones, educating them and encouraging them to get tested if you do feel that there's symptoms, and then having them stay away, even if they do have symptoms and they come back COVID negative, asking them to, hey, let's wait until you don't have any of those symptoms before you come back over. One of the things about staying happy, I think it's important that we, utilize the resources that we have and kind of, using social media, maybe staying away from the COVID stories and why everyone's dying, but, let's focus on the positivity. Let's use social media to connect with maybe friends or family we haven't connected with before. I know that for the holidays, we're doing a Zoom thing. We did a Secret Santa online, and then all of our family members are going to join on Zoom. They got their presents in the mail, and then we're going to all open them. And so that's kind of fun, thinking of unique and creative ways that you can connect. And then, doing activities. I've done painting with groups of people through Zoom. We had like you do the wine and painting nights. Well, they had them through Zoom with groups of friends. You could set up unique games or things that you can play with each other through virtual or technology. And then, coming up with things to do with maybe cousins that live across the state. The kids can get involved. And they're better Zoomers or Google Meet people than I am. So they're just, ready to do it. So you want to go to the next one?
Yeah. Is it on there?
Okay, staying healthy. Okay. Sharing your honest feelings with your family members. So again, like I talked about, just sharing, being open about having conversations about why you don't want to meet with them in person, and, having that respect with mutual respect. One of the things, I suffer from depression as well as anxiety. And one of the first things we should do is reach out for support, but we don't. So if you're feeling overly stressed because of COVID and your children are behind you screaming at you, and your son called you and he was in a car accident, and you have all these things, which has happened to me in one day recently, reach out for support, call a friend, call your therapist, call somebody and ask for help, because we can't do it alone. And we shouldn't be expected to. One of the things that I like to do is schedule regular touch points with people. So I have a friend, we meet, we used to meet to do coffee. Well, now we'll either call each other on a specific day at a specific time, or we might schedule specific, Zoom calls or something, but we try to schedule some time to, just to talk and touch base on how our weeks have been. One of the things that helps with scheduling is that it holds you to it. So you might get overwhelmed with things like, oh, I don't want to talk to her, I don't want to do this, but you know what, it does help to communicate and talk to people. Take time to do things that you like to do. Maybe you've done them years ago, or you know, I know that I've taken up more reading. I used to paint in like college, and I just stopped. And I started again. So I'm doing like watercolors and stuff. And it's been nice to kind of take back some of that, do those things that I used to enjoy, because I do have time, because we don't have, you know, I can only watch so much Netflix with my children. So now my daughter's wanting to paint, my son wants to paint, you know, so it's just been nice. And I think Dr. Medina talked about eating. I think when we're at home, we think that we're going to eat more, but for whatever reason, I tend to eat less because you don't have those scheduled times. Like when you're at work, it's like break time, lunchtime, you know, and you have this and then you do that. At home, it's kind of like all intermeshed. So I think still taking that time, if you are working from home and you do have kids with you, and is still setting up those specific times to, you know, have those breaks and have that lunch can help you not feel so stressed out. And then joining online groups or forums, the last one, you know, there's a lot of forums on Facebook about, you know, maybe Arizona Moms is one that I'm a group part of, or, you know, if there's something you enjoy and you want to talk to other people, you know, it's a good way to connect with people that doesn't require a lot from you. And I enjoy that. So I've joined some art, you know, watercolor forums on, you know, groups on Facebook, and, you know, you can share stuff and people are like, oh, that's so beautiful. And then you know, you can, you know, talk to other people maybe in other states and just kind of enjoy something together without a lot of investment. So, and then the final thing is just changing our mindset. And I think, again, Dr. Medina, you kind of talked about, you know, the positivity, and I was at listening to part of a panelist discussion. One of the panelists had said this, and that we talked about, we always say social distancing, but really it's physical distancing. We should still be socializing. We should still be connecting with people. That shouldn't stop. So, and I think if you just change your mindset a little bit, it's a little bit easier to swallow. You know, to me it is, at least. So just, you know, and I want to, you know, to everyone out there, you know, I think that, you know, being social, I'm a very social person. This has been hard for me. It's been hard for my kids. It's been hard for, you know, family, but, you know, we're doing this to keep everyone safe, right? And it's all about physical distancing. We can still socialize. So maybe increasing your phone calls to people, or, you know, reaching out maybe when you wouldn't normally, this is the time for it. Because let's connect socially while we're physically distancing. And that's it. Thanks, Mike.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Cami. A lot of good points that really resonate. You know, we talk about how we can support our loved ones and the things that we can do to reconnect. I know that as far as reaching out goes and that being a part of staying healthy, I've had a lot of family members that I work with that they've taken upon themselves to reach out to me after, you know, maybe I haven't been able to get a hold of them, but now they're reaching out to me because it tends to be a lot right now and they know we're here. So it's really nice to see that some family members are taking advantage or using that opportunity to reach out to their supports.
Yeah, we have there was Jackie. John says he tells people, no, I'm looking after my health, but thank you for the invite. So that's, you know, that's good. Definitely. Thanking them for inviting him and just, you know, setting that boundary. And then Jackie talked about communication, and she says it's key during the holidays and this pandemic. I just find it unfortunate when I come across someone who refuses to comply. Yes, it's definitely a difficult thing. You know, so it's definitely, you know, hard, but setting your boundaries, like what John pointed out, and just kind of, you know, focusing on yourself and what you can do to stay safe, I think is important.
Yeah, definitely. In regards to working closely with the families, we have some family members that have gave us some input on how things have been going during these holiday seasons. I'll just read a couple of them here. One of them says, the kids being home during the holidays because of COVID has been wonderful because we have been doing crafts, but it is stressful because I can't get stuff done for the holidays, like make sure we have food and toys from programs. And along with that, another family mentioned that I appreciate people saying there's all this help out there, but the COVID stuff has made it hard to get help for my kids for the holidays like we did before. So we see that even connecting with the resources that we're used to, or that some of the families we work with are used to, or some people we know are used to, it's been difficult this year. And to talk more on that, Dawn works closely with family members, directly with family members, so she'll be able to speak to more of that in her experience.
Thank you. So how has the family services changed due to COVID? I think going online, providing a lot of these groups, a lot of the grief groups, a lot of parenting classes, putting those groups and classes online has provided a new community that family members are able to connect with other people that they can also have conversations with about how they're feeling about the holidays and what does that look like. What most families are recognizing is that the services that are out there are harder to get. They are harder to locate just in general, but getting there and waiting in line for 5 hours when they're having to take their children with them because the kids are out of school. Waiting in line in the car can even be difficult because we have children who are trying to get out of the car all the time, so parents are really struggling to understand the new way of dealing with services and supports that are out there. What we're trying to do at the Family Involvement Center is help those families really find a connection to somebody. We work as the peer parent supports to help guide them in finding those services and making sure that they have somebody or know where to go to find those services.
Definitely.
To touch real quick on what Dawn said, I think that that's a pretty big deal because I know that it's affected me in some ways, navigating the service changes. What are some resources maybe that you have? Is there a place on Fix's website or anything where parents can go to if they're really struggling with this piece? Because I know I've heard through different people.
Absolutely. So on Fix's website, we have the information for the warm line. We have information for the crisis line. We also have plenty of resources that they can call our regular intake line and get resources for that may be thinking outside the box. Because right now we know that a lot of the programs are full. They are not taking on more families. And so we're trying to help families think of other ways. Can we have 5 families come together and let's go to Costco and let's get a group of stuff and then let's split it up for the families. We have to really think outside the box. And with the services, even reaching out to case managers can be difficult right now. And so we're wanting to make sure that they have enough information on who to contact if you can't reach your case manager, if you can't talk to other staff, other support systems that you normally do reach out to.
Definitely. Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, I think that's really important that this time of year, we're already, a lot of resources are being used, but because of this year and how things have gone, we really have to think outside the box. I like that Costco idea. I wouldn't have even thought, but really we have to think outside the box so that we can still do, what we need to do and come together, right?
Absolutely.
That's great that you guys did that. Good question, Cam. What are some changes, Dawn, that you've seen with families while navigating this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, right now, a lot of families are really struggling with finding financial resources, housing, utilities, rent. A lot of families struggled to hold on to the money or to make those payments for utilities and for rent during COVID because the kids were home. They were, that money was going to other things, providing food, providing, other needs that the family needed, including internet services that maybe they weren't paying for before that they're having to pay for now. So there's new stressors on families that we're having to help them navigate through this COVID period that maybe they would normally know how to navigate. And that has brought additional challenges to the families, just emotional challenges like Dr. Medina was talking about, because these are things they normally would do. They would normally know which food bank to go to during the holidays to get that meal that they always have provided for their family. And now when they go to that food bank, it's a 5-hour wait. And so there's a lot of discouragement. And what we're trying to do is, bring some of these families wellness classes so that they can learn how to cook differently. Grief and loss groups, because a lot of people are really grieving. They're grieving the loss of that normalcy that they deal with on a regular basis. And on top of that, they have their children home who are struggling behaviorally, emotionally from all of the changes and challenges that they're experiencing also. So families are really struggling to understand how to get through this day by day, not even discussing long-term. So those are some of the important changes that we've seen.
And that's a good point, Dawn. I think too, with having adult children and working with families that have children that live with them, that this has been difficult. Normally they would be going to programs and they can't go to those programs, and parents are having to take on some of the responsibilities that they've kind of thought that someone else was going to take care of. And it's been difficult, I know, on that avenue as well. So yeah, I think that it's just been hard, period. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What have you personally seen families affected? How have you certainly seen families affected during the holidays this year? I think it's been interesting because we've seen a lot of cultural shifts also. People heading back to what was safe, what felt comfortable, their grandparents' cultures, utilizing I have a family who made old dreidels that was their gift for Hanukkah. They were making dreidels. We have seen culture play a big role this year in how families are pulling together and really utilizing and leaning on their faith and their strength and their culture to get through these times. And it's important to really help families understand that's okay. It's wonderful to reconnect and to rebuild those natural supports, because once COVID is over, then you have a whole new toolbox, a whole new group of family members and people that you can connect with that maybe will now understand a little bit better because their children have been home. Their family members have been home and they've had to work through some of their own challenges with their own family members.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. Our family is from the Hispanic and Italian cultures, and we're big on having time spent together. Whether holiday season or not, we're big on that. And so this year's been pretty tough, but we've definitely learned to appreciate too when we do come together. And so it's kind of bringing like a new sense of like how Dr. Medina mentioned earlier about gratitude, a new sense of gratitude for the time that we spend with each other.
Yeah. And it's important. It's really important to, like Dr. Medina was saying, finding things that you can do with your families. We had a family that had $20. They have 10 people and $20 to buy gifts for that was all that they could save out of what they needed. So they went to the dollar store, they bought coffee cups, 10 coffee cups for $1 and a package of Swiss Miss, box of Swiss Miss and some ribbon. And that is what they're giving for their Christmas. And so and a lot of families say those bring back memories. They remember being with their grandma and drinking hot cocoa and sitting in front of the fire and talking about stories. And so it's really helping families reconnect, even though it's a very difficult connection to make.
Yeah.
Dawn, that's a good point about the culture. I didn't even think of that, but even like, I think naturally, innately, we go back to where we feel comfortable and things that we feel safe. And so one of the things, all of our events were always geared around food and food with family, so we've done a lot of cooking,
Yes.
so I'd be like, oh, let's make my grandma's favorite recipe of this or that, and so we'd be making things that, and I didn't even think of that's probably why, because of that safety feature, factor of just going back to where we feel comfortable and safe. So that's interesting.
And that's really a lot of our role, right? Is to build those bridges, reconnect families, help them connect to those natural supports. And I think during COVID, that's kind of either brought us closer together or created, some distance that we're going to have to figure out after. But these are all going to be important things for the families, and using those supports are going to be important.
And I will add here, I think for most of us, if we think back about our childhood years and what our families did traditional, I think nowadays there is a higher expectation to do something that involves spending money. Whereas back then we would play games, we would watch a movie,
Yeah.
We would pop some popcorn either, on the pan or on the microwave, if there was a microwave, and that's how we would spend an evening. And it wasn't, so much about spending money. If we really think about it, it was about what we did. And I think we're seeing some of that with during these times, which is positive.
And that's a good point too with birthdays. I don't ever remember having huge birthdays. It was like me, my mom and dad, and my brothers and sisters, and a cake, and now it's like birthday parties spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars in presents. And it's just like, I don't know why we've created this, but I never had a birthday like that. So the biggest birthday I ever had was at a park, I think, which is free. So, it's just interesting how
which I will tell you has been an additional strain on parents also, right? Because we have kids home, children home, and we're trying to keep them busy. So we're spending more money on things that they like, and families are now, we're coming to the end of the year where things are going to change with what's out there for services and resources and how long those are going to be available. So I think parents and families right now are just dealing with the stress and the anxiety of COVID, and now the holidays on top of it, but are very resilient. And families are finding ways to make things feel good, no matter what it looks like. And they are reaching out to their supports, and they are asking, what do we do? And so I think that's really important for us to make sure that, we're communicating with our families and helping them understand how to think outside the box.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you, Dawn. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you all. Like it's really interesting. I hadn't thought about the culture aspect till you brought it up either, Dawn. So thank you for doing so. We talk about resources, and I know some of these are geared here in Arizona, but I believe the Salvation Army, that website's going to take you to locations across the country.
Yes.
But there's still good information in each one of these different resources. And there was something that was mentioned earlier in the chat about this presentation being available afterwards. I believe it's going to be available on the Mental Health Awareness Coalition website. Is that right, Cami?
Yes, yeah, it'll be available, and then it'll be shared with Copa Health and then Family Involvement Center as well. So they'll be able to post, probably shared through social media and stuff like that. Definitely. There's some great resources on here too. If families want to connect, the Arizona Peer and Family Coalition is a great way. I know FIC has always been a big proponent of that. They actually hosted the meetings there at their St. Mary's Food Bank. They their lines haven't been as long. I know we've sent some families there. You can actually call ahead and let them know, and then they'll have boxes available, like set up times that you can come and pick stuff up, which was actually really, really cool. And then obviously we have, you know, Family Involvement Center's website and Copa Health's website. I know that Copa Health has a lot of resources connecting with for families as well. We're opening up a family geared clinic, I think in Phoenix at some point. And then also Family Involvement Center has some very unique, and Dawn, maybe you can talk about some of your resources, but some very unique resources for families that aren't available anywhere else.
So right now, what we have is we have peer parent support. We are, and I'm assuming that you're wanting me to kind of give you what Family Involvement Center is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Family Involvement Center, we are a family, we help families navigate the child systems, schools, Department of Child Safety, juvenile, DDD. And by doing that, we offer parenting classes, grief groups. We have a hope class that helps parents that are challenged with DCS involvement, but want to understand the process, because a lot of our parents don't understand the process. We will help our families get enrolled with DDD services, making sure that they have a good connection with their case managers. We also have adult services. We have respite services. You know, we offer a wide array, but the wonderful thing about Family Involvement Center is that we are all parents. We all understand, we've all have lived experience, and we've walked this journey. And so while we are supporting parents, we understand how the intensity and the not having your voice heard can really affect your own emotion, your own desire to help your children be successful. And so we really kind of become that parent's right arm, working with them to help them so that when we step out, they have the knowledge they need and the natural connections to those people that really provide natural supports. They've rebuilt that connection. And so we're able to step out and they're able to continue to move on and help their children, and can come back to us at any time if they need support. But being, you know, a family run organization, it's important that, you know, when Jane Kellel started this organization, it was really to empower the parents to understand how to help themselves and how to help their children. And that is the goal of the Family Involvement Center.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. In regards to Copa Health's family support services, we offer adult family support services, and we provide a unique approach where we also provide peer support along with that. So the family can have a peer support specialist working directly with their loved one, and then we can work directly with the family to kind of help bridge gaps, you know, connect to resources, and kind of take some burden off of the family, and have them take back that role as mom, dad, sister, brother, whatever that is, right? And then along with the other array of services, I mean, you know, clinical services, integrated health services, which Diana Medina, you know, we also have, you want to talk about our internship program that we have that you're running, right? We have a large array of services.
So Cami, someone asked if there was any services available in Flagstaff. Family Involvement Center does have offices in Tucson, Flagstaff, Prescott, and Phoenix. And I believe that there are other services available also, if you want to talk about those, that if you know any, Cami, that are up there.
Yeah, we are looking at it. They're currently opening up the horizon of expanding services to other markets in Arizona. And I know that that's something that's going to be happening. And maybe Diana Medina, you could probably talk about that a little bit more. But it's something, especially with telehealth being open,
Right.
that's something that I think that where they're going to expand. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So in telehealth, we're going to be expanding. We have 3 counties that we're going into, and I think it's Navajo, Apache, and then there is one more. But I think with telehealth, we're probably going to start really covering all that northern Arizona zone, even if it's not right now. Traditionally, our services were more centered in Maricopa County, but definitely we are growing and expanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're providing a lot of services, and telehealth is really making all that possible.
Definitely.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed while working with families in our in-home supports program is that in regards to having to do things over phone and telehealth, I think we had a rough start earlier this year, but a lot of individuals have really adjusted to it, and now they can sit back in the comfort of their own home and have those productive interactions with us. So we've really seen it take a turn from where we started earlier this year, and just make this just adapt to such a better place. So there is a lot of good that has came from that.
Oh, absolutely. We had to really jump into it because it seemed like it was overnight. All of a sudden, there were all these restrictions, and our IT team. I was blown away. I'm not super technological, so I mean, in a matter of 2 weeks, they did what typically takes months to do, which is deliver all those services via telehealth. And there was a very steep learning curve, but I will say that also our members realized that, oh, I can do this too. Because I think there was a lot of fear of, oh, I don't know how to use technology, or maybe I used it a little bit, but not a ton, right? It was probably a little intimidating, or what is that going to be like? Is that going to be, the same? And I will say, by and large, the members have been very pleased with the telehealth services, and they have realized, oh, this gives me even more opportunity to engage, right? Even after this pandemic is, we go back to whatever our new normal is going to be, we can then expand our options. We can choose to go in person, or we can say, it doesn't work for me to go in person, but I can do it via my phone. I mean, as easy as that, or a tablet or the computer, and I can get my services. There's no need to skip those appointments or skip that support that I'm getting.
Awesome.
And I will tell you, as a parent, I struggled. I will be honest. I struggled with it because I was very concerned that the doctor was not going to be able to communicate or see my son's body language or understand what's going on with him. And it has been a blessing. My son is 15. He has autism, and being home has been extremely challenging, but his counseling and his schooling have been wonderful because he's not had, and the way he describes that is he doesn't have to read other people's faces all the time. And so he is enjoying this because he can turn the video off and he can just talk, and his doctor is ready and okay. And that's why helping parents talk to their supports and their clinicians is really important, because we can work anything out, and any parent can be successful with the right supports and services.
For sure.
Perfect, Dawn. Yeah. And I think that, I've had the same experience, that it's been great with my children. It started out pretty rocky, but as the school figured out what worked and what didn't, and parents had voiced their opinions. I mean, my kids are getting A's and B's. They like it. They're done. They know their schedule. They know their routine. My son loves his therapist. He doesn't want to go back to seeing face to face. It's been really nice. And I think that one of the things is that you said, our families are really resilient, and that's the truth, right? We are the ones here setting up the Zoom, making sure they log in, making sure this happens, making sure they go here, and maybe still working, and maybe, also have another kid that needs us to do this and that. And we're, and I think that a huge shout out to the families that have navigated this like champs and pros, reached out, and maybe even connected to new resources because of this, unfortunately. But, I think that, we sometimes can be really down on ourselves. Oh, they missed that appointment. Oh, I forgot to this. Oh, I didn't do that. But really, families have really stepped up and been there during this time, is what I've seen.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Absolutely. We did have one more question and this is for all of our speakers, that if a family member is supporting a loved one who struggles with mental illness, but is not engaged in services, what are some ways families can encourage them to reconnect? Even with everything that's going on, what are some ways that families would be able to encourage them? We'll start with Dawn if she wants to.
I would encourage families to really communicate. Really, don't be afraid to talk to your sister. Don't be afraid to talk to your brother. Don't be afraid to talk to a family member who understands what you've been going through, so that they can remind you of the times that you were successful. Listen, those successes can come and go, but if we help families remember the times that they were successful, what did that look like? What were you doing? How were you engaging with your services? Were you communicating with your case managers? What does that look like? Families can usually recall and say, during that time I was talking to this person. I was engaged with this group. Maybe I should get back inside. So it's really just encouraging them to look at their own successes and feed off of that.
Nice. Thank you. Absolutely.
One thing with that too, Mike, I, from the perspective of having an adult child that has grown up, and has refused a lot of services, I noticed that when I forced it or created constant kind of badgering about getting back, he would pull away from me. So one of the things that I've done is I've kind of been like, hey, you're an adult now, it's your life, and he's now been having conversations about that. I really think that I do have problems. I think I need to get back on my medication, and, letting him kind of come to those conclusions because of the situations that have happened. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to, with adult children, take a step back, let them fall, which can be hard. But he's learned so much more from those experiences than I could even have, shared with him, or said, hey, this is going to happen. He'd be like, I don't believe you, Mom. I don't believe you that that's going to happen. Right. And it happens. And then he's like, okay, that did happen. And that was a really bad decision. And it's probably because, I'm not taking my medications. I'm making these really bad decisions. Maybe I should get back on medication. So that's one thing that I've noticed, is just taking that step back and letting them come to those conclusions themselves, even though it's really hard because you don't want your kids to experience anything, but, that's bad. But, I've had to do that, and it hurts my heart, but I've had to, and it's been helpful.
Yeah, and as I would like to add, I think it's important that we reach out, and we may have quite a few people to reach out to, but I'm not saying every day, everybody, but I think even if you divide it up and say, okay, I'm going to check on, my mom today, and then my sister and my uncle, and reach out, whether it's via text, via phone, via FaceTime, Zoom, whatever that may be. It's good for, the receiving end, but it's also good for you. And also do spend some time outdoors. And many of the things we can do outdoors do not cost a penny. We can go hiking, we can roast some s'mores, or something. But it's outdoors. It's something we can do as a family, with our nuclear family, and then it can be done safely.
Awesome. Thank you all. So be supportive, set boundaries if, that's what it takes. Know when to step back and allow that space, and creating that environment that builds that trust, so that we can have those conversations and encourage our loved ones to reconnect, right? I love it. Thank you all. So for those who are here that might not know how to get started on getting services, they can reach out to the SAMHSA treatment referral helpline, and that is a sure way of finding services in your area. And again, this presentation will be provided to all of you afterwards. A few more on here that we have is the few more resources are Mental Health Awareness Coalition, the National Institute of Mental Health, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and mentalhealth.gov. And each of these are going to have an abundance of information about how to connect to services, about advocacy, how to find, what symptoms to look for when working with family members who might be, navigating recovery or managing a mental illness, or not even know they have one. How to get help in a crisis. Just a ton of information in each one of these that really, it's out there. If you need help, it's out there. We're out here.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And do we have any questions? I thought we had a couple before. Mike, do you want to?
I looked.
They went away.
I looked up there. Let's see. I had went back to the top and started working my way down. I know that. Let's see. So small my box here. Okay, so I know that Cindy had mentioned that she's in Washington. The rules are different, and so her cousin is going to, I believe it is Mark Center for group, and they don't wear masks inside. So yeah, definitely the as far as policies, procedures, standard operating procedures, safety protocols, every agency, every state, even some cities are going to differ by city. I mean, there's just so many different things. I know that with Copa Health, for example, to my understanding, we're really going by what the CDC is saying and trying to stay in front of that. And the CDC, I mean, sometimes there's changes that come out daily with how to do things. So it can be difficult to keep up with it, but definitely it's something to look into for every, each state's going to have their own safety measures that they take.
Definitely. Yeah. And someone had made, I think it was Violet, had made a point about making a statement in regards to telehealth, how it brings back the old doctor home visit, but with technology. So you have the doctor coming directly to your home. That convenience of it, definitely. So thank you, everyone. This was awesome. Thank you, Dr. Medina, for your time.
Have a wonderful evening and happy holidays.
Thank you, Mike, for including me.
Yes,
I hope everyone has a great holidays, and we'll start 2021 with a bang, right?
Yeah. Thanks to everybody for attending. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.